Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Thank you for joining us for our third Chat with a Changemaker. So we're very, very happy to have you all. Welcome. Tonight, I am your moderator. Dillon is our guest, and David Johnson is our chat box monitor. So if you have any questions, anything that comes up that's burning, please put them in the chat box. So I'm going to start off with giving you all a little bit of background, then we'll move to the board introducing themselves, and then we will move on into this conversation for tonight. Thank you for joining us. So I am Erica Parks. I am the founding president for the Alumni Board. We are 2 years old now. Chat with Changemaker will be 2 years old, April the 6th of 2023. I can't believe it's been 2 years already. And so we're so excited. We started this during the 60th year of desegregation at our university, the anniversary. And we actually started this April 6th is the week of National Public Health Week. So we wanted to come out the gate doing something really, really strong to highlight our changemaker of colors. Now in August, we've moved to something different, being inclusive and highlighting all of our public health changemakers. So I wanted to tell you a little bit about our mission. Our mission is to unite a network of dedicated alumni to create programming and engagement opportunities for our community of alumni, students, and faculty to connect and show their commitment to the University of Georgia College of Public Health. Here at the College of Public Health, we believe in diversity and inclusion. It is at the core of the work we do to ensure health equity for all. It is National Breast Cancer Awareness Month. That's why myself, David, and Dillon have on our pink tonight. And we're going to engage in an interactive dialogue about clinical research. So get your questions together and we're going to bring that over to you. So I now want to introduce you to David, who is a new member on our board. He joined in August of this year, and he is also a member at large, which means that he is part of our executive board committee. So when I kick it over to David, David's going to kick it to Kim, and we're going from there with the board members. I want you to tell the audience your name, your position on the board, your degree you're at UGA, your specialty, and your current career title. So I am a member of class of 2011. My specialty is HPAM, Health Policy and Management, and I'm the CEO and founder of Camouflage Me Not. I'll kick it over to David.
Good evening, everybody. My name is David Johnson. I'm a member at large, as Erica mentioned. I am a 1993 graduate of the University of Georgia. My specialty was environmental health science. And my current title is Industrial Hygiene and Health Manager for SAFE Corporation, the State Accident Insurance Fund of Oregon. So welcome, everybody. And I'm going to kick it over to Kim.
Hey, I'm Kim Metcalf, and I don't have my video on because I've been in the wetlands today, again, as usual. So I'm looking a little scary and wasn't able to get myself dressed decent enough. But my specialty is also environmental health science like David, and I graduated as well in 93 with my bachelor's and master's in 96. And I started a company in 2001 called Riverbend Environmental, and I am still doing that as president, and we're an environmental consulting firm working mainly with aquatic resources in the Southeast. And who do we need to kick it to next, Erica?
It's your choice.
Let's see. I see Adam B is on. Adam, I'll kick it to you.
Thank you, Kim. Hi, everybody. I'm Adam Bowling. I'm another environmental health science background. Happy to be here with you all today. Since completing my time at UGA, I went on to law school, and so I'm an attorney, and I'm out in the Dallas, Texas area. So excited to be here and meet with you all. I think I will kick it next to Lori.
Hi, good evening, everyone. My name is Lori Elmore, and I am a board member. I'm one of the inaugural members. I graduated from UGA in 2000 with a health promotion and behavioral specialty. I work for the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. And let's turn it over to LaTanya.
Good evening, everyone. My name is LaTanya McGinnis. I graduated in 1999 with a bachelor's degree in health promotion and behavior. I'm currently an assistant vice president at Aon, where I do corporate well-being consulting. Now we'll kick it over to Fabrice.
Hi, everyone. My name is Fabrice Julian. I'm a new board member. I graduated in 2013 with a minor in public health and took a lot of courses around health policy and management. But now I am an assistant professor of health and wellness at UNC Asheville. Right. Not sure if, I think that might be everyone.
I think that is. Oh, Valerie. Valerie just came on.
Actually, Valerie is unable to speak right now. She has her little one in her arms that she is dealing with, but she has actually been a faculty member at the College of Public Health and is an ex officio member and really helps provide an internal perspective for the board.
Thank you, Lindsay. So as you all see, we have a very unique board with Lindsay giving Valerie's overview. We have student representatives and we also have faculty and staff. This helps us to make sure that we are providing programming and opportunities that really make sense to the processes and procedures at the college. So now I'm going to move on and tell you a little bit about Dillon. So I'm very excited to have Dillon here because Dillon and I graduated together. We were students at UGA way before we moved to the other side. We were in a Coverdale building. And so one of my fun moments with Dillon is anytime we had a test, we were stressed, Dillon and I would go to American Deli. And we would have those lemon pepper wings. So I always like to hang out with Dillon at school. We had some great times. So welcome back to Atlanta, Dillon. I am going to give the audience a little bit about your bio. Dillon currently serves as a senior clinical trial monitor at Winship Cancer Institute of Emory University. In this role, Dillon ensures clinical trial compliance across multiple treatment areas to ensure the rights and safety of study participants are protected. Prior to joining Winship Cancer Institute, Dillon served in the clinical research sciences at St. Jude Children's Research Hospital in Memphis, Tennessee. While in Memphis, Dillon was recognized by the NBA's Memphis Grizzlies for his work empowering the local Memphis community through mentorship and community building. Dillon, I want to welcome you to Chat with Changemaker.
Thank you, thank you. Glad to be here. I'm a little bit under the weather, everybody, but I'm here. So if at the end of this you say, you know what, that wasn't very good, blame it on my illness. But if you enjoyed it and you loved it, it was all me.
Awesome.
Just FYI.
Awesome. So we're going to get started and how this is going to go tonight. After every 2 questions, I'm going to check in with David and see if there are any comments, any pressing questions or anything you want to say to add to this talk. This is interactive. I want you to listen, but I also want you to ask your questions and be engaged. Dillon is anticipating your questions. So the first question I have for you, Dillon, is what is one thing you wish you knew when you were an MPH student?
Oh, wow. You know what? These are questions that are always hard. That question there. There are a lot of things that I wish I knew, but I think maybe if I could go back and just really drill something in for me, I've always been the planner. I've always needed everything planned to a T. I need options. I have to really, really have a plan A, B, C, and D. And I think one thing that I wish I could go back for, not even in MPH, my bachelor's as well, is to realize that I didn't have to have all of the answers right then. And if I were to veer away from the path, that everything was okay. I was one of those people, like I said, I planned. I was able to bounce back and be resilient, but I think that if I really knew that I didn't need all the answers right then, I could have really enjoyed my educational experiences, and it would have helped out probably professionally and personally. because I found that, some of those biggest blessings come when you just kind of naturally let things occur, opposed to having to plan everything out. So I wish that I kind of took a step back and let some things be natural and not try to be a perfectionist, if you will. And I also wish I really enjoyed my MPH experience. Like, I enjoyed the people, our cohort, great group of people. We enjoyed, they were always tailgating and always at the football games. I think I went to one tailgate and it was like I was a celebrity. Everybody had to take a picture with Dillon because he finally made it to a tailgate. And I finally went to one football game. So I think I would, if I could take it back, I would enjoy the experience before true adulthood a little bit more.
I think those of us that are your colleagues right now would echo that.
It's those life lessons. When the shoe's on the other foot, you realize, wow, I should have really enjoyed that experience. I wish I would have taken a step back and truly just enjoyed the experience. But to each his own. And I was one of those who had to plan everything out and had to over excel in everything. I couldn't slack anywhere. But if I could take it back, I wouldn't take myself so serious.
I think that's a great message for our students, and I echo that. I agree. My next question to you is, public health is very vast. And a lot of us, we were at school, had our eyes on the CDC, NIH, the State Department of Public Health, all those things. So we didn't think beyond that. How did you become employed in the field of clinical research?
You know what? That is a great question, and one I actually talked about with one of my colleagues today at work. I kind of fell into the field of clinical research, to be honest. When I was there at UGA, we graduated, of course, May 2011. My mom, during my spring semester, found a lump on her breast. And being the mom that she was, and me being the only child to get a bachelor's degree, to then go to grad school, her being the mom that she was, she wanted to shelter me from that result and didn't want to tell me until my capstone was completed. I had walked across the stage and all was well in the world. And so I kind of fell into the clinical research. So when my mom let me know that, I turned down fellowship. Like, oh, no fellowship. I was applying for doctorate programs. I decided to defer one, although I didn't start that program. And I was all set on, I'm going back home. Because I need to be there for my mom, to support her, to get us through this first kind of few hurdles and to see what it looks like. So I too had my eyes on fellowships. I was also applying to doctorate programs. I was also applying to jobs. And they were not in small town Mississippi, which is where I'm from. But when my mom did let me know that she had found a lump on her breast and that she had been diagnosed with breast cancer, I dropped everything and went back home to small town Mississippi to kind of fill that out and to get that taken care of. So I fell into clinical research because I actually, and I don't know if you know this or not, but so my mom was an educator in the field of education 31 years. My senior year of high school, she retired and she wound up going back into the field of education for 11 years at the Mississippi Job Corps Center. So when I went back home, I actually worked a year in the local school system, my middle school, where I went to middle school. And so that wasn't what I wanted for me. That's what, of course, everybody else in the community wanted. Oh, Dillon is back. His mom, Miss Robinson, was an educator. She did this and she did that. So everybody was trying to force me in the field of education. It's like, no, I'm just here to help mom. And once we figure this out, education isn't for me. So long story short, I started to look for careers that I could use my MPH for and were in areas that I was interested in. So I started applying. You did your internship in Jackson, Mississippi at the VA. So the first offer I got was at the University of Mississippi Medical Center in Jackson, Mississippi. I actually signed a contract, was ready to start. Then St. Jude called me and brought me up and hired me as a clinical research associate, entry-level job. And I remember telling my mom about it, and I told her how much the offer was. And she was like, oh, you're taking that, and it's 3 hours up the street. I can come there, you can come here, we can still do everything we need to do. So I kind of fell into clinical research. And I think when I was in my master's, when I was there in the master's program, I knew of clinical trials and I knew what they were. However, in my head, you have the PI, the doctor, you have someone doing the data, and you have the nurses and the medical staff. You have nobody else being involved whatsoever. And of course, that's nowhere near the truth. So I kind of fell into the area of clinical research. Wasn't anything that was planned. And that's why I said some of the biggest blessings kind of come when you allow them to naturally occur. So I dropped everything, went home, did what my heart, my mind, my soul said, Dillon, you need to do. And fell into clinical research, and the rest has kind of been history, as they say.
What a fascinating story. I had no idea about some of those things. I remember when you had to leave. I did not know the details, but I have followed your journey. Thank God for Facebook. You know, we can see what our colleagues are doing and how they're progressing in their field. At this time, I want to check in with David and see if we have any questions or comments. Or David, do you have anything at this time?
Oh, we just had one comment, and it was in agreement with the statement that we shouldn't take ourselves so seriously, but our students work so hard and they're so driven. But Kim commented that she hopes that they're taking time to enjoy the whole UGA experience. So really resonated with Kim.
Thank you. All right, Dillon, so we can continue to rock and roll this conversation. So you've given us a lot of how you came into the field of clinical research and how your mom played a part of that. You had a plan, as you talked about, that you thought was going to you were going to go down that path, but you didn't. So I want to ask you, because you made some decisions, and I always believe that our lives can change in a split decision. So what made you change the trajectory of your life, dropping all the opportunities? You mentioned a fellowship, job opportunities, doctoral programs, to return to Crystal Springs, Mississippi.
You know what? I don't know if it was a decision. It almost was as natural to me as breathing. When she said it, I was a little upset initially because that's the relationship my mom and I had. It's like, what? Like, you didn't tell me this, and you know I've been doing all this stuff. I'm coming home. She was like, no, you're not. It's like, yes, I am. I'm coming home. So, and I totally understand it, being a mother and being kind of seeing your first, well, seeing the families first, because I have an older brother, but seeing, you know, that child who, oh, he got the bachelor's degree, now he's in graduate school. So you don't want to hinder that in any way. And I was kind of the first in my family. So I was kind of figuring things out on my own. So going to undergrad and joining fraternities and being a student leader and traveling outside of the state to decide to go to UGA, doing a fellowship at the National Cancer Institute. So a lot of stuff kind of I had to fill out, kind of feel the way on my own. But for me, I don't think that was even a decision. When she told me, my heart, my mind, it was, you're going home, you're taking care of mom. Jobs will be here after, schools will still be here after, you're going home. And so I did that. And it's something that I don't second guess, don't think twice about it. And actually, when I wound up working at St. Jude, I told them when I started, like, well, I moved back home because of this, and my mom's battling breast cancer. And of course, being at St. Jude, being in clinical trials, dealing with cancer, they were totally understanding. So they would send my mom care packages and do stuff behind my back to kind of, because I wouldn't want them to do it. So they would find out her phone number and send her little text messages and get her address. So, you know, they were super, super supportive, and I'll always be grateful for that. But for me, it wasn't even a decision. It was, I'm going home, and more of a statement. And I did what I said.
Wow. I would have done the same thing. I totally echo that. There's nothing like being there for your parents. They've been there for us. It takes a village, and we know that we're where we are because of the village.
Absolutely.
I love the new village that you found at St. Jude. It sounds like they were very supportive of difficult time that you and your mom were going through.
Yeah, and you know, and you've seen some of them because, of course, we're Facebook friends. And when I made the big move to Georgia, of course, they had to send me off and have a dinner and all of this. So I posted pictures of them. So you've seen it, but they've been amazing. I, of course, came in as the youngest person on the team. And another thing in the field of clinical research, I am usually always the youngest person on the team and also the only male in the room. And so it's been interesting. So there are a lot of opportunities there for diversity, a lot of career growth, and a lot of career opportunities, which I think we'll get to a little bit later, but it was the right fit for me, for sure.
Well, that takes us into our next question. We keep talking about clinical research. What are clinical trials, and why is there a need for representation for the general population in clinical trials?
Oh, so that is a loaded question. So we all are familiar with clinical trials, I'm sure, and those are research studies that are done for scientific purposes, you know, to find your medical, surgical, your new treatment and preventive options. So of course you have to have the clinical trials to facilitate those things. It's also the primary way that our investigation of new drugs, devices, et cetera, goes through the phases of clinical trials to make it to market and available to the general population. So clinical trials, we definitely need them to make sure drugs and new treatments and preventative strategies are safe and effective. And where public health bridged for me with clinical trials, and I didn't see it when I was an MPH student, but I was able to see it now in my career, is I'm sure that we all know that individuals experience disease differently. So how you treat someone who's European American will be different from how you treat someone who's African American. Someone from high socioeconomic status will be a lot different when you're looking at access to care and all of those barriers that are there standing in their way. And so it's imperative, since diseases affect people differently, that clinical trials are generalizable. The results are generalizable to the general public. And so what that means is we need people of various experiences. So people from different races, ethnicities. You need people that are from different lived experiences, whether it's people that are low on the economic status, people from marginalized populations. We need all of those people to truly guide new treatment options that are out there. And one thing that everybody should know, whether you're MPH student, professional in the field, alumni student, is one, health disparities exist for sure, and they are intensified, I guess I would say, in marginalized populations. However, what you may not know, and it's one thing that I found fascinating, and you can go read the articles on it and look at the research, and that is that minorities are underrepresented in clinical trials. And if you have an MPH background, which I'm sure everybody on here does, the first thing that comes out is, well, why are minorities underrepresented? And we start talking about those issues of medical mistrust. A lot of people, first thing you'll hear from them is the Tuskegee syphilis study and what happened there, and how for that reason, they don't believe in clinical trials. They're not going to be a guinea pig, et cetera. And I think that and I'm talking about students, health professionals, those interested in public health, then we have to start finding ways to kind of bridge that gap effectively and in a culturally competent way. So we have to let people know, in order for health disparities to be reduced or minimized, or for us to reach health equity, we need everybody to participate in these clinical trials. We need to know what this drug does in this population, that population, so that those results can then be provided to the general public and be generalizable. So clinical trials are definitely important in the field of public health. Health disparities definitely exist. And I think one of the biggest charges are, in my opinion, is if we can find ways that to work with those marginalized communities to kind of educate and say, okay, well, Tuskegee, yes, that was wrong. This is what happened, but this is where we are now. This is how we move forward. And it may not be something that I come up with. It may not be an idea that Erica comes up with, David, or anybody on here. It may be an MPH student that hasn't graduated yet. It may be someone 10, 15 years down the line. But I think that one of the things we have to do is really start to re-educate and kind of shift the narrative a little. And just as I talked about earlier about being the youngest and also being usually the only male in my clinical research teams and in that space, the same can be said about the field of clinical research. A lot of women are in the field, a lot of European American women. So not only are the clinical trials, I think, underrepresented as far as minorities, but also the jobs and careers. And they are plentiful. I was talking to a colleague earlier about how I'm doing this talk from my alma mater, UGA, and how did you get into clinical research? And so we just literally went to Google, typed in clinical research coordinator, which is one of the entry-level jobs in the field that you can come just with a bachelor's degree, get experience. Some industry pharmaceutical companies will train you on the job, and jobs were pulling up left and right in the Atlanta area. And so another thing is kind of doing what we're doing here tonight, and that's shining a light on clinical trials and the career opportunities. And there's so much that can be done with those MPH degrees, and there's so much of work to do. And I think one of the biggest things we have to do is just kind of start to shift the narrative on a few topics and have some uneasy conversations. So yeah, so all of that to say that clinical trials are important, and what was the other part of the question? Clinical trials are important and diversity.
That you covered it all. What are clinical trials and why is there a need for representation of the general population?
Absolutely. So yeah, so well, I'll just wait. But the career opportunities are out there, and I tell my mentees now, just look at it, just kind of be exposed to it. You don't have to do it if you just look at it and see if it's something that you would be interested in. And when you start calling out some of the jobs and their responsibilities, you start to shift and you see the light go off that, oh, I didn't think that project management would be an effective tool or certification for clinical trials, or, oh, I didn't know that my marketing and communications degree could be used for clinical trials. Well, how do we recruit those patients? We need your marketing skills. How do we reach those vulnerable populations? We need you to tell us. Do we advertise on billboards? Do we do social media? So the career options are plentiful. And I think one of my blinders were on, and I was just looking, oh, it's the doctor, someone entering the data, and the nurses. That's it. That's all you need. But the field is so much bigger than that.
Yes, it is. I have a few friends outside of you in clinical research, and one of them actually has a bachelor's degree in biology, and she travels a lot. She audits a lot of clinical trials.
Yes, and people assume, but like a bachelor's degree, 4-year degree, you can get those entry-level clinical research coordinator jobs. And from there, you just work your way up the ladder. It's very lucrative. The demand is, of course, still going up. And now the field of clinical research, one advantage that it had prior to COVID, more than it does now, is a lot of the jobs are remote and they allow for great work-life balance. Of course, now with the pandemic and COVID-19, a lot of more employers are doing the remote schedules, but it's not new to clinical researchers at all, and pharmaceutical companies. And whether you decide to go the private sector, which are your pharmaceutical companies and industry sponsors, who are usually paid a lot more, or you choose to do the public sector or nonprofit sector, career opportunity and growth is definitely available in there.
I love that. So at this time, we want to check in with David and see if we have any burning questions in the chat box, any comments.
Sure, we're sparking some good discussion here, Dillon. So things have picked
cool.
up. I'm going to combine a couple of them, and you touched on this a little bit, but with regards to marketing and social media and the different ways that you recruit for clinical trials. So one of the questions was how are participants recruited for clinical trials, and then to add a little bit onto that, the minority take on it too is. What are some of your recommendations to recruit more minorities in particular to participate in clinical trials?
Those are two amazing questions. I wish I had just the answer that would knock it out of the park and cure all disease and get us to health equity. But those are two very, very important questions. And for recruiting of clinical trials, it really depends on the trial, the disease area. Some disease areas, breast cancer. Of course, you're not going to market or recruit breast cancer at a pediatric hospital. So, you have to really look at the disease area. You have to look at who it's impacting the most, who the trial is written in support of. So if you're trying to eliminate breast cancer or improve breast cancer survivorship in African American women, where are you going to recruit the African American women? And I've seen it done a lot of different ways. I will say, again, I'm in the Doctorate of Public Health program now. I just read an article for a paper last month, and it was actually a study in North Carolina, and it was in breast cancer prevention program for African American women. And it was using hairstylists and the beauty shop kind of as lay health advisors. So, women come to get their hair done. That's where all of the gossip and all the good talk happens. And so the stylists would ask questions or give them suggestions. They would talk about it. They would have information. And I was like, wow, that's really kind of next level thinking. But it really depends on the disease area. It depends on who you're trying to target. One thing that I had to do in my neuro-oncology project management days at St. Jude, of course, St. Jude in Memphis, Tennessee is a children's research hospital. However, some of our clinical trials recruited because they were industry sponsored. And so industry sponsor, you're getting an investigational drug from a pharmaceutical company. So we recruited up to the ages of 22, or I think it's 22 or 24. So of course, for that age range, your patients wouldn't be at St. Jude because at 18, the patient is considered grown and they're off into adult care. So we actually did a few marketing campaigns. Our doctor, he was world-renowned in the field. So when he would go to his talks, we would have a little slide with the pamphlet they're trying to recruit. We actually did social media, the St. Jude handle or account on social media. We also did a campaign that featured a young cancer patient, a child, and an adult who was a cancer survivor who was 19 or 20. And I think the caption said something like, we both can be treated for medulloblastoma at St. Jude, just so people will look and say, how can that grown person be treated at St. Jude? And maybe that gets them to click on the link. So there are a lot of different strategies that you can take. Also, clinicaltrials.gov is where all clinical trials are listed. So if someone's looking for a clinical trial, they can go search for breast cancer and find it there. So there are a lot of different avenues that really depends on who you're trying to target, what's the disease area. And also what I found as well is what resources are available. So how much money is in the budget for marketing or during these huge campaigns. The second question, and I touched on it just a little bit about the minority clinical trial participation. I think that a big part of that is based on just the stigma associated with clinical trials. You talk about the Tuskegee study, everybody knows about the Tuskegee study. And that's what you know about clinical trials. You tend to not know anything else about it until you're in late stage breast cancer, colon cancer, and there are not any other options. And then you're asked to be on a clinical trial. So I think a lot of it is just education and trying to shift that narrative and the movie I think I was introduced to the Tuskegee study from a movie. I think it was Mama's Evers Boys or Miss Evers Boys or something. And so as a child, you're looking at that and you're saying, what's that? And you may not know anything else about clinical trials, but you remember what you saw in the movie. And so I think it's about really shifting the narrative and really finding ways to be innovative and really reach those communities. I have always been, and when I was there at UGA as a research assistant, we partnered with local African-American churches for a breast cancer and colon cancer awareness campaign. I've always been for partnering with local churches because that's where your people are. That's where you can really get the buy-in. That's where, whether you're youth to elderly, you can get the entire gamut there. And if you get buy-in from a health ministry, a pastor or someone, you can really, really do a lot of work. And so there's no right or wrong answer. I charge the people on the call, if you think of something that you think may be the answer, feel free to share it, or feel free to research it. Feel free to go out there and see what's being done. There are a lot of avenues, but we don't know what works until we get the people on the clinical trials. We're able to get those statistical analyses done and get the results shared out to everyone. So it's no right or wrong answer. And I challenge the people on the call to try to find a better answer. And maybe email me and tell me what it is when you find it, so we can all work together and really knock this thing out.
Dillon's rallying the creative thinkers here. I like it.
I am. And that's the other thing about, I've always enjoyed people who are creative. Some people say, oh, you're so creative, you can really see stuff. And I'm like, can I really? And you don't know until you try it and you miss. And right now, I don't think we're trying. So we need to at least try. And we can strike out a few times, but let's put the efforts on the wall.
I like that. In fact, you can almost count on striking out a few times, right?
Absolutely.
You did touch on that the jobs were plentiful. Particularly, you commented on how many jobs were available in the Atlanta metro area. But we had a question on how does one go, but what's the best path if they decide that they want to pursue a career in clinical trials?
You know what? I would say there is no right or wrong path. My coworker who I talked to today about this same thing, and we went to do the search just to kind of pique our curiosity. She fell into the field because it was her first job after her bachelor's. As a matter of fact, she just got her master's last year, I think. And so she was fresh out of school, knew someone who worked in clinical trials. I was like, hey, look at a clinical research coordinator position. She did it, and now she's been in the field for 8 or 9 years. And so there's no right or wrong way. What I will say is, like I said, there are many ways to get into the field. A brief search of clinical research coordinator or clinical research jobs will give you everything you need to know. Things are done a little differently depending on if you're in the public sector or if you're in the private sector. As I said, the private sector are your pharmaceutical companies who tend to have more money, more resources. They're all about the bottom line and their drugs getting to market. And the bad side to that is the world of pharmaceutical and the private sector tends to be a little cutthroat. You're paid very well, your benefits are well. However, if the drug shows too much toxicity or the drug decides we're going to sell the drug to somebody else, the entire team working on the drug can be let go. And so you kind of have to balance and weigh the good and the bad. I chose the nonprofit public sector because it worked for me, because I signed up for the public service loan forgiveness program. So, and I think I have 1 year left. So I have 12 more payments and my 10 years of service will be done. And I can have my UGA and Jackson State University loans forgiven. So after that's done, maybe I'll look at the private sector. And so someone coming directly out of undergrad or grad school, I would say, it depends on you. If you can deal with the kind of cutthroat of the pharmaceutical industry, go forward. If you want to kind of have more of a tailored approach where you can really learn on the job and really progress and kind of serve the community and really focus on disparities and not so much the bottom line, then I would say look into the public sector. But either way, if you type clinical research coordinator, clinical research associate, you also have clinical research pharmacists. You also have regulatory specialists. You also have project managers. So there's an entire field. Everybody, when you look around the room, there are a lot of people in the room to make this thing work. So I would say do what's best for you and what's best for your situation, but for sure, just starting. And the reason I'm saying clinical research coordinator is because a 4-year degree gets you in the door. If you're in a pharmaceutical company, they have what they call the fast track. A lot of them have the fast track program where they teach you on the job what's needed. And you go through that training, you become certified with their company, and kind of graduate into the full role. And so I'd say whatever works best for you, go for it, but just kind of look and see what's out there and be a little open-minded to it.
Great advice. Kick it back over to you, Erica.
All right. Dillon has given us a wealth of information and opportunities that are out there in the clinical research field. I hope our students that are on tonight are taking notes and are going back to look at these opportunities, because there's so much that you can do. And why not you? You can help get rid of some of these health disparities. So I want to shift gears a little bit. The next question I'm going to ask Dillon is, you're doing a lot of work in clinical research, and you also are very active in the community. I want you to tell us about your involvement with the Memphis Grizzlies Foundation.
Oh, wow. So yes, so I tend to always look for new opportunities, always ways to be involved. I think a big part of everything that I do is what was instilled in me as a child. So my mom, my grandmother, our family mantra was always God, family, community. So God first, family second, community third. And I saw my family give so much to our local community. And one thing my mom always told me was never take from the community without giving something back. And so I was there in Memphis looking for ways to kind of be involved. And so the mentorship opportunity came up with the Memphis Grizzlies Foundation. And so basically it is a program for middle school African-American young men of color as they, from 8th grade until they transition to high school. And so we follow them for the year. They do all types of events, from team building to learning about themselves and leadership and learning how to speak on stage and how to speak in front of an audience and enunciation and pronunciation. So it's an amazing opportunity for those kids. And at the end of the program, there are actually 10 every year. At the end of the program, it's usually 3 to 4 of those young men will receive scholarships to go to any high school of their choice. So they can go to private, charter, whatever. We had one student actually 2 years ago to go to a boarding school in Virginia. So it's an opportunity for those students to really grow, learn themselves, an opportunity to give back. And so it was my way of giving back. It was nothing that I was required to do, but it was something that I had to do. So something I enjoyed, my way to do as my mom said, never take from the community without giving back. And so anytime I'm taking from, whether it's paying taxes, being able to live a comfortable lifestyle, whatever the case may be, being employed, I'm always trying to find ways to kind of give back and pay it forward. And I guess I should also say, I have not been very active in the CPH Alumni Working Group because I've been far away. However, I do make sure to send my annual donations in. And so any alumni on the call, make sure you get those donations in. So I'll give a plug for the College of Public Health right there.
Can I jump in, Erica?
Yes.
We have a question about involvement, and it comes from no other than our Vice President, Kim. So she wanted to know, Dillon, if you're participating in our new UGA mentorship program. So I smell an opportunity.
You know what? I've seen it. I've seen it pop up. I am not participating right now. But I do know it. I do know about it, and I see the emails come out.
She adds that we need you.
Oh,
So you
I'm
might
back.
expect a phone call or an email from Kim.
I'm here now, and right now I don't have a lot of outside responsibilities, so no one has grabbed me quite yet. I actually still, of course, check in with my mentees. I have three. One who just started at the University of Memphis, one who is a senior in high school this year, and my last mentee who is in his 9th grade year of high school. So still check in with them to make sure everything's okay. As a matter of fact, one of them actually surprised me and checked in on me yesterday. And it's like, how are you enjoying Atlanta? I was like, oh, wow. Thanks for thinking of me for once.
Well, that sounds like you are doing your job, being a great mentor and pouring great seeds into our future. So they're learning fast. I also need to check up on my mentor, like he checks up on me. You also sound like a future board member, so I'm just gonna leave that right there.
We shall see what the future holds.
All right, we're going to wrap up to our last couple of questions. We do have a charge for those of you all on the call. So the next time we will take a break for the chat box will be when we get ready for the charge. So my last 2 questions for Dillon. The first one is, what accomplishment are you most proud of?
Oh, wow. You know what? And this is not just because I'm here. But it is walking across the stage for that MPH degree. And the reason it is because I had no idea when I was walking across the stage that my mom was diagnosed with breast cancer. I knew none of this. But she, being my superwoman and being the mom that she was, I'm coming down for the CPH graduation. I'm staying a week, and I'm going to stay for the grad school graduation. I'm coming to all of them. And so she did, and she came down. We toured around Athens. We went to Atlanta, did sightseeing, and she met some of my classmates and was able to walk in Coverdale and see Dr. Vina, who was the chair of epidemiology and my boss. Then she was able to see him again. And so we really, really enjoyed that trip. And so I think that is one of the things that I'm most proud of, because looking back, I felt like when we were going through it, she was enjoying it a lot more than I was. And when I realized that's what that was. So it was one of my biggest accomplishments for her to see me walk across that stage and to be there at UGA and meet everybody and really enjoy that week that we had. So that would definitely be the one that I'm most proud of.
That is awesome. What is the legacy of UGA for you?
Oh, wow. You know what? I thoroughly enjoyed my time at UGA. The people, and I was telling some of the people before we came into the main room, the email went out with my picture. And that morning, my phone, I started to see UGA, MPH, UGA, MPH, because you're in my phone, Erica Parks, UGA, MPH. So I was like, what's going on? It's like, oh, we see you. You're doing a talk. Oh, you're very important now, huh? So, we were able to reconnect, but the people were amazing. And we were all just so open-minded. And so we came from different areas of life, different regions, different countries. And everybody was just open to try new things, open to really get to know one another. So I really, really enjoyed my time at UGA. One thing that I will say that I really enjoyed as well were the resources that were available. Coming from a historically Black college or university, an HBCU, to a PWI, predominantly white institution, at HBCUs, the resources are a little less, I guess I should say. But the blessing in that is the limited resources really require you to learn to do more with less. And so when I came to UGA and the library, you could just click on an article and it pops up and you can do this and everything you had before the school semester even started. It's like, wow, like this is something totally different. So I enjoyed my time at UGA, and the resources, like I said, were second to none. And that's and I guess I should also say, one of the blessings as well for my time at UGA was being able to serve as a research and teaching assistant under Dr. Vina, because my out-of-state fees were ridiculous. And I remember looking like, do I want to take out this much in student loans just for out-of-state fees? And so I actually went down to the campus to visit and said, oh, I have something for you. And it was a letter letting me know that I had been providing assistantship, which meant the out-of-state fees were waived and the student activity fees went from a few $1,000s to a couple of $100s. So, you know, all of that is wrapped up into why I love UGA. I love the College of Public Health. And I try to make it my business to make sure that I donate, 1, to the UGA College of Public Health, and 2, to the Black Alumni Scholarship Fund, so that these opportunities are afforded to more people, more students that really need it.
And you do, because every time one come out, I say, Dillon, have you seen? And I give my donation. So we appreciate that. I'm going to turn it over to David to lead us into the charge.
The charges, we are turning the tables, right? So this question is posed to our audience tonight. What does reducing, let me find my question here, reducing health disparities and moving to health equity mean to you? And I'll I think it's only fair I'll go first, since I sort of, pull the rug out from everybody. I saw this, I had opportunity to participate in a webinar this week with NIOSH, and they were engaging with the Futures Institute. And there was this notion presented that so many more jobs are moving to home health. And with the aging population, we're going to have a segment of the workforce that's really astronomical growth with regards to that type of work in the gig economy, and really low wages and really low access to health care. And so one of the big associations was living wage is necessary, because that affects mental health, and that affects your overall health and ability to access and pay deductibles and pay for care and things like that. So I thought that was very interesting. To advocate for living wages is a step in the right direction to advocate for health equity. I hadn't thought about that. So, but it makes total sense. So what does reducing health disparities and moving to health equity mean to our audience members? I argue living wage.
And you know what?
Gotta have the living wage.
Yeah, and I'll take that. I guess it's probably something I've already said, but for me, and coming from the clinical trial space, I think it kind of comes back to us changing the narrative and re-educating on a bunch of things. So how do we effectively partner with marginalized communities? How do we really build those relationships? It's one thing for, and I'll use myself as an example, it's one thing for me to come to churches in the community with all of these cancer programs when I'm working on a big grant or I'm working on my dissertation. But am I truly partnering with those organizations and those churches if they only see me when they are giving me something or I need them? So I think we really, I'm a huge advocate for community-based participatory research. I think that it can really move mountains if it's done right. I understand that in order to kind of work with some marginalized communities, we must respect cultures and we must kind of remove ourselves and our biases. And I know that that's hard. And is there a perfect way to do it? I don't know if there's a script, if there's a 1, 2, 3, 4, this is how you do it out there. I haven't seen it yet, but I think we really have to start kind of changing the narrative and really trying to make sure that we're being true partners to those communities who we want to work with the most.
I totally agree, and I'm gonna go behind you. You made me think about the asset-based community model. I remember that in college, the holistic and community perspective. And as Dillon mentioned, in building these relationships, we go in as public health professionals, gathering data, research, focus groups. But we get criticized a lot for not coming back, sharing that. What were the results? What do you plan on doing with those results? Keeping that relationship going. And I would take it another step forward to say, not just keeping our research and our data inside in our colleges, our university. Let's push that to policy. Let's testify before Congress. Let's bring that information and make it relevant so that it can produce the research grants that we need at these community-based organizations and us working together. And if you really want to get at health disparities when it comes to minority, people of color, those of us living on the margins, you must use your faith-based organizations, but you just can't go in there and take, you got to give as well.
Excellent point. Lori offered that she really appreciates how people are understanding that health equity is more than just about health. It touches so many aspects of our lives: food, housing, safety, transportation, income, so many other facets. And so she really appreciates how the discussion is really multifaceted.
Thank you. So this leads us to our closing remarks. Did you have something else to add, David?
We had one more comment.
Okay,
reducing health disparities means creating access to healthcare for all people. And Sarah commented that she created a policy memo in one of her public health classes looking at how to eliminate disparity in maternal mortality for African-American women in the United States with care based in cultural competency. So that's one area that, steps can continue on and take some ground in that area.
I love that. Makes me think about the 11th annual State of Public Health Conference that's coming up. So we're going to move to our closing remarks. We're running a few minutes over, so I ask you to bear with us for a few minutes, and we should be done in the next maybe 5 to 7 minutes. Dillon, you want to give your last closing remarks?
You know what? I don't have anything. I know we're over. Just thanks for the opportunity. It has been amazing to reach out and have this discussion with you all. If any students are out there looking at the clinical research field, please feel free to reach out to the Alumni Board, get my contact information. I'm glad to help any way that I can. And I am glad to be here and in the conversation. And I think this is where we really can do a lot of work. We have to have those conversations, alumni, current students, so that we are able to make sure the torch is passed. And if it doesn't happen in the next 5 years or in our lifetime, maybe it'll happen in some of our younger counterparts' lifetime. So thanks, everybody. It's been amazing.
I totally agree. I just shared Dillon's work email address. He asked me to share that with you. So if you look in the chat box, you'll see that there. David, do you have any final comments you would like to share?
I don't, other than just a quick personal note, and that is I just want to thank you for your important work in clinical research. I moved back to Georgia because my sister was diagnosed with stage 4 melanoma in August of 2014, and she got treatment at the Winship Cancer Institute, and through your good work afforded her 7 years of quality life. So we were given an opportunity to make memories together that otherwise might not have been there, and feel very, very fortunate. And she participated in the use of Keytruda, which was originally for non-small cell lung cancer. And it really prolonged her life. So thank you. Thank you for your important work.
Yes, and that's what it's all about. And so I'm glad that you said that, because I just for students and even colleagues, alumni, that's kind of how are clinical trials tied to public health? Well, clinical trials are health. So, and those are the stories we like to hear. It's a lot of work. It takes a long time to get there, but that's the reason it's done.
I want to take this moment to recognize Dr. Feldman. Dr. Feldman, thank you for joining us tonight. You always join us, and I want to render the floor to you if you have any comments, any words you'd like to share.
No, it's always a pleasure. It's a great session, Dillon. And in a former life, I did a lot of clinical research, and the work that you do is so important. Unfortunately, my camera is screwed up, and you have my Dorian Gray picture up there. Otherwise, I'd be live in person. Anyway, it's really, really good program.
Thank you. So you all, this leads us to the end of this series. I want to remind you, if you haven't heard, if you want to come, the 11th Annual State of the Public's Health Conference is Thursday in Athens at UGA, October the 27th. The on-site registration fee is $100 if you want to join. That does not include your meal, since you'll be registering on site. And finally, David, if you would share the link, I want to ask you tonight to give $25 for our food pantry. This is our food pantry for our students, as Lori talked about the food insecurity. And so we stock this food pantry up for our students so that they can get whatever they need and continue in their studies without being hungry, right? We can help them out in that way. Our next series is coming up Tuesday, November the 22nd. At 7 p.m. That is Tuesday, November the 22nd at 7 p.m. This series will be the last one that we will have, and we'll be moving to quarterly. So please notate that. If you're coming back, we want you to come back, share this with someone. And I hope that you all have a great night. Thank you for your time, and continue to be blessed and stay healthy. Good night.